to the whim of whatever or whomever insisted that you come out tonight, you bought yourself a golden ticket to a sold-out event. And by tonight, that ticket will be glowing in the palm of your hand. And wherever you walk tomorrow, people will check you out and say, "What were you up to?" Because you'll have a sparkle in your eye as a result of having touched or accessed or felt something in yourself because of what one of the women up here on stage said. Not a promise, just a prediction. If I haven't met you, it's a safe bet that I'd like to. My name is Lael Couper Jepson, and my business is SheChanges. And I'm all about change powered by women. In a recent interview in Maine Today, a woman described me as human gasoline. Saying that I ignite fires inside people and I rock boats. And I'm so grateful because that basically sums up what I've had a really hard time describing for years. But the truth is, what I'm really doing is starting a revolution. And you'll learn more about that soon enough. But let me let you in on a little secret tonight, just between us chickens. All the women that are up here on stage tonight, myself included, are scared shitless. I am not kidding. We are scared we're going to say something inappropriate. We're scared we're going to forget what we were going to say. We're scared we're going to say something that makes no sense or has no relevance to you in your lives. We're scared we're going to say something that makes complete sense to you. So much so that now we are seen and exposed, and we feel really, really vulnerable. And we're also scared that you find tonight valuable, because as much as we know that tonight is about the women up here on stage and their stories, we really want you to get something out of tonight. Because the thing is that this group of women and myself up here tonight, we're not all polished and put together, and let's just get that straight right out of the gate. We are not professional speakers. We have not had an extensive amount of coaching. I am a coach, but not a speaking coach. To be clear. So they have had a few words from me. The women here tonight who are stepping up on the stage, in fact, they have never, before tonight, they've never even met each other. So in many ways, these women and me, we're like you, only we're up here on stage. So in many ways, these women will be doing some work in service of our community tonight. So envision that as a woman tells her story, as a woman tells her story tonight, she'll be walking around the audience with a platter of delicious finger food. And on this platter are fat olives and apricots dipped in dark chocolate and stuffed figs and the best goat cheese you have ever tasted in your life. My invitation, and the food on the plate, the appetizers will come to you tonight in the form of images and concepts and turns of phrases, and pieces of story that feel like they will have been custom designed and crafted specifically for you. So much so you might even look around like, is that for me? And because that's what SheSpeaks is about. So, by all means, my invitation to you is to eat off the plate. It's yours for the picking. It will be passed around. Have your fill and fill yourself up. And let it be good and bright and luscious. By all means, eat for the plate. It's your choice. You don't have to, but it's there if you'd like. So I invite you to have yourself look that you were meant to be here. Got a big frog. You were meant to be here on purpose, by design, and for a reason. Because the reality is communities such as these, where pretenses are dropped and consent is given to be truly seen and vulnerability is traded freely and openly, it is an amazing experience. And there are gifts given and many, many gifts given and received, sometimes by the speakers on stage, sometimes during a break with a stranger that you've never met before. Communities like these are rich and ripe and abundant, and they're also rare. I stood up here on stage 6 months ago, and I said that I'd come to appreciate that I created SheSpeaks in many ways to create the church that I have always wanted but never found.
Yeah.
And then, rather than wait for the lightning bolt to strike me dead, I chose something different. I chose to believe in myself. And I chose to believe that that wasn't a heretical statement so much, because if you look, this is a church. Main Street Arts used to be a church, so it's not a stretch. And then I went down in September to the Business Innovation Factory, to their annual summit, which you will be hearing about a lot tonight. And I heard the Rabbi Erwin Kula speak, who blew my socks off. And he talked about how we are all living in a maze of grace, and how it's a place where a teenager with a smartphone has more power than a medieval king. It's a place where the most religious people are often the least religious people. And it's a place where the most sacred places are often the least sacred places. Vulnerability flourishes in communities like this, where there is vulnerability that freely flows. And sometimes it can take on a spiritual nature, because you start to realize that we're not alone. So you'll see here tonight that courage will be multiplied exponentially tonight, like a happy little germ in a yeasty little petri dish. Science person. And you'll see people's eyes a little brighter. You'll see people's breath start to drop down into their stomachs a little bit more. And you'll see their eyes brighter. And you'll experience, sort of, by the end of the evening, you'll experience a vibrating sort of sexy power that permeates the room. So if you are here with us tonight, truly here with us, and I invite you to be, you will feel like you are part of a revolution happening right before your eyes. But we need you in order to sort of make that happen. So we're going to be up here telling stories tonight, but we need you to catch them. So without you, our stories will just float aimlessly among the rafters. So if we say something tonight that resonates with you, let us know that it landed someplace. Let us see you as much as we are letting you see us. And if we fall, or we forget, or we fumble, or we cry, or something happens, and we need help, let it make some noise. Give us a hoot or a holler, and let us know that we cannot fail or flail too grandly while on your watch. So here's how tonight is all going to go down. In a few minutes, I'm going to get off the stage, and I'm going to bring up the first of 5 speakers of the evening. Each of the speakers will be speaking for 13 minutes, and they'll be referencing a countdown clock over here, so you'll see them checking to see where they are at the time. That's what they're doing. In between, so the story that you'll be hearing tonight from these speakers often began in a really different place, in a far, far land, way off from here. 2 months ago, had this idea of starting a story, and it changed, and it grew, and it evolved over time. So what you might be hearing tonight, know that it is the 5th or 6th or 20th version or more of a story that first began 2 months ago. In between each of those speakers, I'll be getting up and talking for 5 minutes or so to weave the theme of Harbinger. This is my leading symbol. In between all the speakers, I'll be sort of pulling threads and tying it together and doing the thing that I do. After the first 2 speakers, we'll be taking a short break, and you can get something to drink back and do your thing. And then after the break, we'll bring up the last 3 speakers of the evening, and they'll take us to the conclusion of the program somewhere in the ballpark of 8:30 to 9 o'clock. So our theme for tonight is Harbinger. And I could stay up here and weave a little snazzy little something to tell you about why I came up with the name Harbinger. But the reality is, I just like how it sounds, and I think it was an excuse to use it. It has some importance to it, like those horns in the medieval castles when they welcome the visitors to the royal courts. And there's some pomp and circumstance to the word harbinger. It makes it feel like it's on official business and it warrants our attention. But the reality is that harbinger is simply a sign of things to come. It's a clue of insight, a breadcrumb of guidance, or an inkling of understanding, sometimes subtle and sometimes sitting right on your face without actually knowing it. But harbingers, I have a client that refers to them, she gave me a great term, she calls them sparkles. And harbingers for her, she calls sparkles, and she looks for them actively, suggesting that they have a glimmer or a shimmer about them that somehow stands out from the ordinary. There's a pervasive practice in the field of coaching that everything is relative to the concept, to the topic at hand. And anyone who has worked with me will attest to the fact that I will use every resource at my disposal, at my client's disposal when I'm working with them, in service of getting them what they want. So when I'm working with clients, I had one that had a dream about an owl the night before session. And when she came to the session, we looked up what owl meant to see what she was dreaming in this book, Animal Speaks. I had another client years ago who hit a rabbit, sadly, on the way to her session. And I pulled out the book and we looked at the significance of rabbit to see what she just hit. We have used everything I've got. I invite my clients to look at the bumper stickers in the cars in front of them as potential answers to their questions. I have them listen to the songs that will not stop playing for them on the radio again and again and again. And the lyrics that are in your head constantly. A year before I gave my notice in my corporate office and I jumped ship, I could not get the song, Nancy Sinatra's song, These Boots Are Made for Walking, out of my head, which remains one of my favorites. And it was such a harbinger of change for me. When I'm working with clients over the phone, I listen for when our calls drop or get interrupted by a car alarm or smoke alarm or a sick child who's home who interrupts the coaching session. And we make note of that to say, that was an alarm. What were we talking about right before that just got triggered? What was it? We use everything. I have my clients pay attention to what their friends post on their Facebook pages, resources and links, maybe their Twitter feeds, because it's not serendipity. It actually might be by design, a harbinger. So all of these examples are harbingers. They are seeds of awareness that are trying to bubble up to the surface and pop into your vision. But sometimes it's hard to see and make sense of. It's hard to believe in what you can't really see. And some would say this is the essential challenge of being a spiritual being, believing what you can't see, right? And so harbingers don't rightly fit in our logical minds at times. We often feel the vibrations of them coming long before we actually see them or we understand them. Like the sigh of a deep longing, or the spark of an intuition, or the thorn-like poke of jealousy. Now I want to talk about jealousy for a minute because it's a crafty little harbinger that some people might sort of kick to the curb. And I know I didn't used to be a fan of jealousy, and I had it. So I had a lot of shame around it. I felt like it was judgmental, it was petty, I was being self-righteous. I had this one friend who traveled extensively with her family, and this family fed their wanderlust with wild abandon, and my gypsy spirit was green with envy. And so I made up stories about why this family could afford to do that, because maybe of a trust fund, or they had this windfall, or they had this amazing economical fortune turn of fate. Designed in a very lame and pathetic attempt to make myself feel better about not traveling. Didn't work, by the way. But luckily I had a friend who said, hold on a second, what you're feeling is jealousy. And I went, oh yeah, the hang dog caught me. And she said, no, see if you can name it, because jealousy will often point us to our deepest longing. And in that moment, I almost cried, because I hadn't realized how hungry my soul was for travel. So jealousy. Our first speaker of the evening is no stranger to jealousy and has felt that pang of wanting something more. And like me, she has made up stories to justify why that is right. And like me, she's coming to the conclusion that she's coming to the impression that it has a lot more to do with her than it does with everyone